Hey there. So it is week 12, and this is my service learning video blog. I am currently in the ETSU Recycling Center, and you're probably thinking that is a weird place to be doing your video blog. And you will be right, but there's a reason, and you'll see in just a minute when I explain it. But first, I want to talk a little bit about my journey and how I've been doing and the place I've come to in my service and how I understand service. I've always been somebody who believes in service, and I try to live a life of service, as I tell myself. Service to others is kind of a very big pillar for me in how I live my life. If I could sum it up in one word, though, I would choose the word empowerment. My take on it is if I'm serving you well, that means I am showing you what you are capable of doing. And if I show you that you have the ability to do something, then that's stronger than me just doing it for you. Like, it's important sometimes to do something for somebody, but if you can show them how to do it, then that's just going to keep giving back. Something really interesting that's come across my mind since I started this journey, because I've had some turbulence in getting on somewhere to actually do my service learning, was a difference. To me, there's a pretty marked difference between service learning and volunteering. And I feel like the difference is with volunteering, you're doing it for nobody but the people you're volunteering for or the cause that you're volunteering for. With service learning, there's a small component to it because it's a facet of an educational, like if you're taking a class, right, and you've got a service learning component like this class, when you go into it, it's understood, and there's kind of an atmosphere around it of you're doing this for something. And that adds, technically, if you want to think about it that way, I don't like saying it this way, but it adds some selfishness to it. Meaning, if I go in somewhere to just volunteer, that means I have extra time and I want to give, right? And not saying that it's not selfish in some ways, because doing good feels good, and sometimes you do that for yourself. But there's an obligatory air around doing service learning, I think. And I feel like some people can pick up on that, right? So, like, if you were to go into somewhere to do volunteering for, like, a mental health service or somewhere where some people are in some serious, dire need, you may want to be careful about telling them, say, yeah, I'm doing this as a component for a class, I'm here to learn, I'm here to, gain experience from this as much as I am to help you. Well, they may not like that. I don't know why that thought came across my head, but it feels true to me is, if I were in that situation, if I'm somewhere trying to get some serious mental help, or if I just lost my house and you're here to volunteer for me, I'm either going to be too thankful to care, or I might just stop and think, man, I'm not some specimen for your classwork. I'm not some exercise for you to get something out of. I just need help. And I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. I'm not saying that's the case for many people at all. That's something that's come across my mind that I think might be important for people to consider when choosing something like an SVL placement. Like I said, I haven't run across that. I'm not saying that that's everybody or even anybody. That's just a theory that's come across my mind. And I feel like it's an important one, because if you do go in and you end up, if you get a student that just doesn't necessarily care about what they're doing, they're just trying to get their hours in, and they go in, then that person might just feel like, a specimen in a class, right? And nobody wants to feel like that. Nobody wants to be objectified like that. In my opinion, I think the best way to get a placement, and it's worked for me in this time, is to, if you don't know where to go where you know, which means, I've got a community around me and there's people in that community that already do good. So when I tried something and it didn't work out, which I'll get to later, I went to somebody who I already knew was doing good and said, hey, can I come help you do good? And then it worked immediately. Just, the very next week, there I was. So I really think there's all kinds of benefits to that. If you go to your community instead of just trying to step into somebody else's, you are going to be more likely to actually get to do some good work. You're more likely to help somebody that you know, which is important. That strengthens relationships, that strengthens bonds. And then because you're in there, you already kind of know what's going on sometimes. Like if it's around people that you already know, you more seamlessly integrate into the system. And then, all these things kind of work together to create some more like lasting change in the place where you're trying to help people. So I feel like that's been another big takeaway for me is if you're trying to find somewhere to go to do good work, go to the people you already know versus trying to step into somewhere that you don't. Look in your immediate community to try to find somebody who's already doing some good, because I guarantee you're going to find somebody. Okay, now to the reason we are in the recycling center. So I tried to volunteer with the American Red Cross because of Hurricane Helene. I wanted to step in and help my local community in any way I could. I felt like in the emergency and the crisis situation, I'm a responder. I was raised law enforcement, so I am a responder. I wanted to go out and help people who needed it. And then I got shut out. The Red Cross was saying, we will only take people who can do a minimum of 12 hours and a minimum of 3 days a week. So, as a student with 2 jobs, I just could not do that. But as a backup plan, I am friends with someone who's constantly going to the food pantry on campus, Bucky's Food Pantry. And it turns out they were working and doing supply runs to people who need them. So I jumped into a couple of those. But we've run into something interesting with this, which is, if you look behind me, all of this is supplies meant for these people. And then behind me here, all of these clothes, all of these household items. And then on the other side of this wall here is the Buck Ridge location of Bucky's Food Pantry. Both of these places, we have got probably 2 truckloads or a decent sized U-Haul worth of supplies that nobody can take anymore. They're just sitting here. We tried a couple of weeks ago to take a load of supplies into North Carolina, and we came back with half of what we took because people just couldn't take anymore, which is a great problem to have. It's just also a very interesting situation because what people were saying, and what we've found is, and I need to preface before I say this, I'm not going to step into the FEMA or the Red Cross or any of the major, current events, I'll say, because that's way too long for me to get into in this video. So I'm just going to leave that where it is. But apparently, because of what happened there, Appalachia started taking care of Appalachia, meaning, anybody and everybody was bringing supplies to places that they thought needed them. So that now you've got places that can't even take any more supplies because everybody was bringing supplies to drop-off locations. We passed probably 120 pallets up to my chest height of bottled water between here and Elk Park out of North Carolina. So it was really amazing to see, but it's also it kind of made me think for a second because, would that have happened had these people not needed help and not been receiving it from these other places? But anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. This is part of my service journey right here, is all of this, like, we're here to help, but these people, even though they look like they need it and you're getting told that they need it, I don't know. It's a really interesting thing to bring up, and I wanted to show that in the blog for sure. So the reason that I brought all these ideas up, I know they sound kind of scattered and they don't really fit together until I tell you this last part. I've told you all of these ideas because my main discovery this whole semester in my personal service journey is, I told you, when I'm going to tell somebody who comes to me and says, I want to do more, I want to serve, I want to do something good for the world, I'm going to tell them to go where they know, right? Which means, look around your community and look who that's already doing some good in the world, and then go help them do more good. That's the quickest and most effective way that you can make good impact in the world. But that raised a question in me, which was, what am I ever going to say if somebody goes and does that, but then realizes, I don't have a community? And I feel like today we live in a world where that question is going to raise that answer much more often. People are going to say, I'm not in a community. I don't feel like I'm part of a community. And that's really kind of disheartening to think about. But my answer to that is, and my main thing that's going to keep me motivated to keep saying that is my personal superpower. Something that I just have a special talent for is I love showing people the world that they live in. And I've got a picture here to show you to help kind of explain it. So fun fact about me is I am a beekeeper. And this picture of me, even though it cuts my head off and you can't even really see my face, is my favorite picture of me, because this is me in the middle of teaching a beekeeping class to a group of college students. Showing them about the world that they live in a way that they would never see otherwise. And in a way, to me, this is service. This is how I serve other people in my day-to-day, because this is what I'm good at. So if somebody comes to me and I tell them, go where you know, and they say, I don't know anybody, I don't have a community, I don't really even have many friends these days, I'm going to say, well, let me bring you in and I'm going to show you. I'm going to take you to somebody who I know. And I'm going to help them see the world around them, because that's what's going to keep me doing this, is because people just don't realize anymore that there's a whole world outside of them. So that's my special skill. That's my special talent. And everything that I've shown you today, all these supplies, all the stuff I've talked about, that's all kind of culminated into my service journey. So thanks for listening, and I'll keep you updated as we go. We've got a few more weeks in the semester. I've got, I think, one more supply run to North Carolina. Maybe we're still talking about it. And then I've got maybe 10 more hours working in the food pantry. So still more stuff to do. I'm excited for the future, and thanks for watching.